Sickening fall. Aisling stumbled and went tumbling over the edge of the cliffs along with the hegemonics. "Patrick!" she yelled, reaching out in a desperate attempt to be saved. Her panicked screams were drowned out as she went over the edge, dropping the hegemonic in the grass. "Aisling!" Patrick yelled and dove to catch her but fell short. As Aisling fell, she wildly flailed in an attempt to catch herself on something, anything. Aisling's time ran short and she hit the rocks down below with a horrible wet sound. Patrick darted towards the cliffs and looked over the edge. As Remy neared, she realized that her assumption of the outcome must have been true as Patrick quickly glanced backwards in disgust. Down below, Aisling's body washed away with fresh, crashing waves, dragging her body out to sea. Nightingale backed slowly as the group cornered her. To Remy's eyes, even defeat had not made Nightingale seem less mad. The Malama's dark form crackled around her head, turning rain to steam where it touched the black anathema. Teeth gnashed as she lashed out at Rook, trying in vain to shove him over the cliff and into the crushing surf below. There was no shock in Rook's eyes or betrayal, only guilt as he held Nightingale back with one arm. He didn't budge. "Night, stop!" Remy shouted, desperate. "You lost! Give up!" Nightingale twisted her head around to look at Remy, just a little too far. "Give up!" her friend repeated, anger abruptly gone from her tone. Nightingale fumbled for a dagger at her belt, drawing it in one hand. She held it out in front of herself, as though she were about to drop it. Instead, to everyone's horror, Nightingale jerked the knife towards her own throat. "No!" Remy lurched forward, but not nearly fast enough. Nightingale was too far away. Rook slammed into Nightingale like a mighty wave striking a sandcastle. She buckled without resistance, knife spinning away as she dropped the weapon. "Not today, bastard! That wasn't part of the deal," Rook shouted as he secured his arms around Nightingale. She thrashed and screamed against Rook's grip, scratching and biting at him in animal rage. Rook was unmoved. "How about giving us our friend back?" Recognition dawned slowly on Remy as she watched Nightingale struggle. Remy hadn't been fighting her friend. Nightingale had been possessed. It had been the Malama the whole time. "What happened?" Remy asked, mostly to Zeke. Neither of them could really do anything to help with Rook already holding her down. "She let the Malama puppet her in exchange for leading us to you," Rook said. "It promised to give her back once we got here, but it lied." "Oh, God, because of me?" Remy covered her mouth. "Take this." She slung the bundle of ledgers she found within the cave out towards Zeke, shaking off the worst of the water and blood. "Sure." Zeke packed them away without objection. With that, Remy neared Nightingale's head and bent over to look into her eyes. The Malama spat at her with a snarl. Remy looked devastated. "Why would you do that, Nightingale? I wasn't worth it." Nightingale shuddered. Suddenly she wasn't fighting Rook anymore. The girl peered up at Remy and Rook and all the anger washed away from her face. Nightingale started sobbing. "She's back," Remy said, pushing Rook off of her. "Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God, I'm so sorry." Zeke and Rook watched with their guard up as Remy rushed in, embracing her tearful, shaking friend. Nightingale was more than a little banged up. Between losing the fight and being forcibly restrained by Rook, she looked awful. Even so, her color had returned. The Malama's magical armor and sword seemed to have disappeared, and there was only green in her tear-filled eyes. Remy held her, letting Nightingale sob into her shoulder. Zeke reached down and picked up the hegemonic in the grass nearby where Aisling had fallen to her death. The artifact was still securely shut, and without knowing the combination to open it, it couldn't cause any harm. He tucked the small box into his bag. "At least we got the hegemonics." Patrick threw him a disgusted look. "Yeah, that's what matters, the goddamn hegemonics." Patrick began skulking back towards the cave they'd been fighting in front of. "Come on, let's take shelter and head back after this rain lets up."